Matot-Masei Sheni. So they return from war with Midian, and Moshe sees them returning, and they only killed out all the male adults. And he sees them returning, besides all the spoils, they have captives, including women. So Moshe says, Hein Heino Hoyu, in Pasuk Tezvav, Tezayin, they were the cause of the problem to begin with, of why you went to war, why you leave them alive. So the Gemara says, because Moshe got angry, he ended up forgetting the halacha that we're going to have in a few psukim. But in the meanwhile, he told them that any girl who's of age, who's roy labia, the Gemara says it's 3 and up, but they didn't know everyone's age. So they passed all the girls in front of the tzitz of the Kohen Gadol, and if a girl was roy labia, her face turned a greenish color, and they killed her. And if not, they were allowed to keep them alive as captives and slaves. Then, before they would go back into the Machane, it doesn't mean the Machane Yisrael, it means the Machane Shechina, because they were in war, they were Tamei. You remember from Parshas Chukas, even though over there we learned that a goy is not metama ba'oil, under the same roof, but b'maga, Tumas Maga, when someone comes in contact, even if it's a guy with a dead, he's Tamei Meis, and he needs to be spritzed with the Paraduma on day 3 and day 7. So he's not allowed into the Machane Shechina before that. So Moshe warns them. But the chiddush of this parsha is that even with a weapon, as long as there's a chibur in it, from the weapon, that's extension from your hand into the body, in the corpse, let's say you're pulling out the sword, so the Gemara says the cherev is kecholol, it's like the corpse itself and the person's tamei meis. Then Elazar is going to say now the halacha that Moshe forgot about the gi'ulei kelim. So it's really broken down into 2 different halachas. One that's still we're noyeg today, and a lot of Rishonim holds the right. So any kli that's owned or made by a goy that comes into the rishus of a yid, it needs to be toivled. This applies to the 6 metals listed in the pasuk of zov, kesef, nechoshes, gets gold, silver, copper, iron, tin, and lead. But then the giulei kelim, that's for the used kelim that they took from the midyanim. If it was used with dry heat, let's say in fire, so the only way to get out all the treif that was swallowed up into the metal is through fire. It has to be burnt out, and if it was through cooking, in other words, moisture, so it has to be dumped into boiling hot water, and that gets out. Chacham understood that metal expands in heat. Then we're going to have all the booty. What do they do with all the spoils of war? So if you look at them, there's a lot of numbers over here. They're astronomical. Hashem told Moshe to split everything. Half of it is going to go to the 12,000 soldiers that went to war. The other half is going to go to Klal Yisrael. Of the half that goes to the soldiers, they take 1/500 of everything, and Hashem says, give it to Elazar HaKohen. Of the other half that went to Klal Yisrael, they take 1/50th of everything, and that goes to Shevet Levi. And that takes us in to right before Shlishi, the Sarei Halofim and the Sarei Meis, those were the generals over the thousands. There were 12,000 people, so you had 12. And the Sarei Meis, each one was appointed over 100, so you had 120. So 120, 12, you had 132 people that when they took all the tachshitim, all the earrings and bracelets and so on from the women that were made of gold, and they were very pricey, a lot of times they had to be alone with a woman in the house, and she had jewelry in private places. The Torah is made that not one of them did an avera, but they were afraid that they had a her avera, so they gave all the gold from the jewelry to as a carbon Hashem to be mechaper for the her. So the Torah says how much it was. It was 16,750 shekel HaKodesh. That translates into pounds, 837 pounds of gold, just from these 132 people. So you can imagine how much the 12,000 got. And that takes us till Shlishi.